What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today we're going to talk to you on Lucid. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, what the current data points are saying, and then over and above that, I wanted to talk on my plan to save Lucid. As crazy as that sounds, hear me out, it might make a little bit of sense. So I'm going to go over all that, but first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So going into next week, Lucid's technicals look absolutely horrific. It is on a very literal death spiral, especially on Friday, went down 7.82%. I've done a dedicated video all about Friday, so I'm not going to dive deep into that exactly, but a lot of it did stem from banks kind of signaling a slowing within the broader market. And when it comes down to this upcoming week, there is more banks unveiling their earnings on Tuesday. Monday is a holiday on an FYI. So Tuesday, so you have Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and several other banks. If they do signal a slowing similar to JP Morgan, Bank of America, and many others, then that might extend the fear throughout this week as well. So that's something just to kind of consider. Aside from that though, you do have retail sales coming out on Wednesday, and so that's going to be a very big data point. A lot of institutions have been saying 2024 is going to be very much reliant on the data. And so basically here we have it. A lot of people are anticipating the Feds to cut still rates sooner rather than later, potentially maybe July or whenever else. But technically, it is going to be very much coming down to the data. And as soon as there's some signs of cracking from consumers, you are going to see everyone and their dog start to shout recession. And I feel like a lot of people are doing that just to either spread fear or whatever else reason. But throughout 2023, consumers have been holding up the economy. I've said that time and time again. There's been a lot of data, inflation going up and whatever else that is bad, but consumer linked data has been very strong. So I think a lot of people are still going to be very much paying attention to that. So that's coming out Wednesday. Aside from that though, just a bunch of Fed speakers, so that might cause some volatility. But in reality, I think it'll also be more so very much dependent on the banks and what they give for future guidance. So hopefully they don't signal, like I said, a slowing, because that's just going to hurt Lucid so much more. And even though Lucid is creating new 52-week and all-time lows, you aren't seeing a lot of value investors getting in. So these are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So I didn't bring this up on my Friday video, but you can kind of see just big money is not buying Lucid for the long term. Just a lot of algorithmic trading, so they're trading in among themselves, but nobody is really buying Lucid for the long term, which is very, very sad. But then again, as I've said in the past, you can kind of look at insiders and see what they're doing. And if, for instance, Peter or whoever else is not buying, then why would institutions? And I've said this time and time again, Peter just needs to do the damn job. So let's look at Peter, for instance. So these are all the transactions that he has actually done. He's exercised quite a few times, most recently on, it looks like January the 3rd. But aside from that though, he has sold time and time again for tax purposes and never has had transaction code P, meaning he bought using his own money. Absolute craziness. This is just BS coming from a CEO standpoint. And a lot of people like to bring up the fact that insiders are buying. The only buying that has actually been happening, if you kind of look, transaction code P has been from the PIF, which is right here. So they've done their initial, obviously, purchase, which isn't kind of disclosed here, but then since then they've done two. So in June 2023 and December 2022, and you can kind of see all the amounts and what they did pay. So $10.68 in December, and prior to that I believe their average was $10.20, something like that, or whatever. In June they did buy it at $6.83. But regardless, Lucid does need to do something to retain shareholder value, or else there won't be any obviously incentive to buy Lucid. And this is where my plan does come into play. So I'm going to talk all about that. But when it comes down to Lucid's technicals, it is actually sitting on a very strong support. So this S3 296, it did bounce off that. For whatever reason, if it does break below that, then anticipate the Elliott wave prediction that I mentioned to you of it hitting around 255. That is going to come to realization. So just kind of anticipate that. But despite that though, Options wise, going into this upcoming week, it is negative. So 80% of all the options that was done on Friday were bearish. So people are betting that Lucid is going to continue to trend down. So hopefully Lucid comes up with something to really save us, because I think a lot of us do really like the product. That's the only reason why I'm still holding. I cannot stand, I've actually grown to really hate Peter himself, because for him to get paid how much he does, and for what little innovation I feel like Lucid has done over the last little bit, it's not where it should be, and especially to what he gets paid. But I feel like a lot of people do really like the product, like the actual business. Just management is the kryptonite, is the fault right now. So hopefully something does change in the foreseeable future, because for as long as Lucid is going down this path, you're having shorts jump all over this. So on Friday alone, shorts did increase 2.18 million shares. 28.28% of the free float is being shorted. That is just crazy high for any company, especially a company that does produce a good amount of vehicles, not to where investors want, but a good amount. For it to be 30% short interest, that's crazy. But 250.33 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 5.68%, kind of high in comparison to the previous day, so that was Thursday. And then right now, 650,000 shares is available to be shorted through Interactive Brokers, and that is reduced quite significantly from that 3.5 million. So they did use up a lot of their ammunition on Friday to bring Lucid down, like I said, about the 7.82%. But with all of that said though, that's just some expectations to be aware of for Lucid. So the technicals aren't necessarily looking the best, and a lot of people are betting that Lucid is going to continue to trend down, potentially to maybe 250, and hopefully that holds itself. And so with all of that said though, I wanted to now talk on my plan to save Lucid. It's kind of outside the box thinking, but it could really help Lucid stock price, as well as kind of increase shareholder value and maybe even sentiment. But when it comes to Lucid and their production, so this is kind of a vague summary. In 2023, they produced 8,400 vehicles, delivered 6,000 vehicles. 2022, 7,100, and about 4,300 for deliveries. So on a year-over-year basis, good growth, not to still the extent that investors wanted, but still pretty good growth. But there is one thing that is kind of standing out and has stood out for a while. Just in 2023 alone, there should be around 2,400 vehicles somewhere on this earth that is sitting there undelivered. Same goes for 2022. There's roughly, I don't know, just rounding up or rounding down, I guess, 3,000. So combined, about 5,000 vehicles on this earth not having an owner, not being delivered, and obviously a lot of that is extended due to lack of demand, especially the Air Grand Touring and many other things. So I've brought this up time and time again, but regardless though, my plan could really rectify this. So a couple of things to note. So looking right over here, going back to Ortex, just to show you, the outstanding shares is 2.29 billion. So that might make some sense once I go over my plan. But so 2.29 billion, or even the free float is 885.19 million. So that might make a little bit more sense. But my plan is, so let's say you own 5,000 shares of Lucid, just throwing that out there. And obviously you can put a certain time limit on this, but let's say Lucid comes out and has a plan, says, okay, for whatever amount of shares that you own for, let's say, 1 or even a 2-year time period, we're going to give you a discount on a actual Lucid vehicle. Because a lot of us who own Lucid have said, you know what, I actually really want a Lucid, and my profits from Lucid are going to pay for that. I've heard that time and time again. So in theory, let's just say Lucid comes out with a plan and says, hey, you know what, if you hold Lucid and show us proof and that you didn't day trade it or whatever for, let's say, 2 years, and you have 5,000 shares, we're going to give you $5,000 equivalently off of a vehicle. Imagine how many people would hold on to their shares for that 2-year period and not sell one share. If anything, if they really truly did want a Lucid vehicle, they would buy more. And so, of course, imagine the actual shareholder value that would be retained. And a lot of people might be saying, well, hold on. Like, there's about 2.29 billion in outstanding shares. You're telling me that you want to get rid of and give a discount for 2.29 billion? Like, are you messed up, Cal? Hold on, I thought about that. But let's think about this. So by doing this plan, it does retain shareholder value, even settlement, less volatility in the stock price. But let's look at this. So this is the market cap for Lucid since obviously way back when, 2021. Kind of subtracting this spike right here. Let's use 2023 as a benchmark. So around here, 19.98 billion. That's what the evaluation was in the market cap on February 24th, 2023. Currently, it is 6.87 billion. Imagine, so of course, that 2.29 billion, let's say they did actually give a discount, full discount for that full 2.29 billion. So technically, we would have went down less than what truly did happen, right? Because we went from about 19 or 20 billion to 6 billion. That is crazy, crazy stuff. They could have given discounts tenfold, but yet, like for instance, even the PIF, like hell, they want the 100,000 vehicles, right? Or up to 100,000 vehicles. Why? They would just buy more. Like that way they get crazy discounts. Same as myself. Like I would buy probably, if I really did truly want a vehicle or even let's say a Gravity, and I didn't want to buy and spend 80,000 for instance, or whatever is equivalent in Canadian. Well, I would go out and buy more Lucid shares, especially at these discounted prices. So that would create a floor. That would create support levels. And that is something that is not really happening coming from big money, because big money is not buying Lucid. They have no incentive to buy Lucid right now. So once again, it's kind of outside the box thinking. I'm sure there's a lot of people that it's going to have issues with my plan, and I didn't really think about a lot of the repercussions and whatever extended after that. But I feel like just looking for face value, by doing this plan, you essentially would increase shareholder value, less volatility in the stock price, and if anything, you might incentivize more people to buy Lucid. And plus, like I mentioned, not to be negative or anything, clearly there is a lag in demand. This is why every single year there is a lot more production than deliveries. Like I already said, around 5,000 vehicles is somewhere on this earth, maybe hidden in a bunker or something like that. But they are somewhere on this earth without a owner, which those 5,000 vehicles could be given to shareholders through discounts. So I feel like that's a pretty good deal. I've never really heard or seen of any company doing anything remotely like this, but I feel like desperate times calls for desperate measures, and this might actually be the saving grace that does add some stability to Lucid. But then again, what do I know? I'm not a financial advisor. You guys always do your own due diligence. Let me know your thoughts on Lucid for this upcoming week. Where do you see things going in the short term? Do you think 255 is going to be hit, or do you think that there is going to be a bounce and potentially trend higher? On a side note, just kind of take note of this. These are some of the support and resistance points. Those 309, 317, 330, and 343. That is if Lucid does have a nice bounce up. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. One final thing, as I always share with you, take advantage of this promo. It has been extended up until January the 15th. So basically a day and a half left, but simply sign up for an account with Moonboo, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.